Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining day 6 today. Very happy to see all of you. And I invite you to take a deep breath with me, just to be present. Yeah, and remember how precious this time is to be connecting with your mother and understanding her heart more. Thank you for making that space together. So we are going to pull up our things here. And we are on day 6, and in my book, it's on page 100. I think in the other version of the book, it's 88 or so, in case you want to follow along in your own book. So Mother says, in the New Testament's book of Revelation, it is written that the marriage supper of the Lamb will take place when the Lord comes again at the end times. That prophecy was fulfilled by the holy wedding, by which the only begotten Son and only begotten daughter, lost at the beginning of human history, were brought together as bridegroom and bride and anointed as the true parents. As we were joined as husband and wife, I made a firm resolution in front of God. During my lifetime, my beloved husband and I will bring to a conclusion the history of the providence of restoration through indemnity, during which God has laboriously toiled. I know that what hurts God's heart more than anything else are the religious conflicts that take place in his name. Without fail, we will end them. In the side streets and workplaces of South Korea, people were whispering out of worry, anxious over the fate of their nation. Doesn't it feel like something is about to happen, one would say, to which his friend would respond, I feel the same way. We live in troubled times. If only there were someone who could set this world right. I was sure such worries would soon dissipate. The year of our holy wedding ceremony, 1960, was a turning point, for great changes were taking place both at home and abroad. In South Korea, the people's longing for democracy burst forth, and they ousted the authoritarian Liberal Party. Overseas, John F. Kennedy was elected president of the United States, and we felt the way opening toward a new era. But history is never that simple. The rifts of the Cold War grew deeper, and conflict worsened between the communist realm and the free world. A flame of popular outcry for democracy flared up in the Soviet bloc nations of Eastern Europe, but the state crushed its advocates, and the fire grew dim again. It seemed that the time for peace was not yet at hand. People continued praying for a true leader to appear. Great changes also were taking place for the Unification Church. Virtually the whole of Korea has stood in opposition to our church, with Christianity issuing the most scathing criticisms. But now, on the foundation of embracing a young woman leader, the true mother, we began ecumenical dialogues and transitioned from the Christian denomination to a global religious movement. Our members prayed that we could be a beacon shining forth a new hope of salvation. In particular, women who so long have been oppressed perceived that a true women's movement was being set in motion. Yeah, it's actually quite a fascinating reading, and it's something that you could easily overlook the significance of if you're reading the whole book. And that's why I really like doing this condition where we just take a small passage and think about why Mother is lining this up the way it is. And actually, I was talking with the ladies who are going to speak tonight, and I got their permission to just add the 2 preceding paragraphs because I felt it gave some context. And it actually is kind of like a genius work of art when you put it all together. So the first paragraph I read is talking about the New Testament's book of Revelation, about the marriage supper of the Lamb. And we've heard Mother talk about this so many times, right? And to be honest, I hear it talked about so many times that I start to forget its significance and why Mother's talking about it and what it really means, but she's framing this over and over that the hope of Christianity is the marriage supper of the Lamb. But the problem is Christianity doesn't understand and didn't understand Jesus's true purpose and essence and what the marriage supper of the Lamb means. And so she's making the point here that the only begotten daughter is that missing piece from this historical understanding of the providence of restoration. And she's then she's painting this picture of what's happening in the world, right? That there's some kind of huge change that's coming, and people are just, they feel it in their hearts, they can sense something's coming, and it's like something is being built up, and democracy in the free world is growing. But then she starts to talk about how the time for peace, maybe it wasn't the time yet. And why is that? You know, what happened that made things challenging? And I can just maybe leave that with you. And I think some of our speakers tonight might share a little bit more on this point. But what's interesting for me is she places the changes in our church next to the changes in what's happening in the world stage. So she's pairing, you know, the struggle of communism and democracy against the changes that are happening in our church. And what is the point that Mother makes that's changing in our church culture right now? She says something so interesting. She says Korea is opposing our church, right? And she says especially Christianity is opposing our church. But then she says, but now on the foundation of embracing a young woman leader, the true mother, we began ecumenical dialogues and transitioned from the Christian denomination to a global religious movement. And it's so fascinating. That's just one sentence. But what is Mother saying there? She's saying, I mean, for me, when I hear it, it makes me think, yeah, okay, finally the motherly perspective, it can come through in the leadership of our church. She's saying now that we're centering on True Mother because of True Mother's presence and True Mother's leadership, we're no longer opposing Christianity, but we are becoming a global religious movement that brings people in. And isn't that the Mother Spirit, right? Isn't that the Heavenly Mother Spirit that makes way for everybody? And so it feels correct, but it's just one sentence. And I think Mother's really trying to say something to us about that. And then she continues on saying that, you know, our members are hoping that we could become a beacon. And then her answer to that is that, in particular, the women who have been oppressed for so long were perceiving that a true women's movement was being set in motion. And it's just fascinating to me. I mean, I really think we should all be thinking and praying, like, why is Mother lining up things this way? But for me, it's an answer in my own heart as a woman, right? Like, yes, this is kind of, I think many of the women and many of the men too have felt that maybe our church can sometimes lean so in one direction, right? So like, this is the way to go and we have to unite 100%, but that by making space that can be embracing a more global religious movement, as Mother puts it this way, then we make the pathways for everybody to come to God. And this is the woman's nature, right? The mother's nature that's longing for this. And our men and our brothers and our husbands have that nature too. It's more the point that Heavenly Mother's nature is finally being manifested in both men and women. It's not just women who can manifest it, although, you know, as mothers, I think we're naturally gifted that learning experience, but it's that Heavenly Mother Spirit is finally coming through. So it's just so interesting that Mother is kind of pairing the world stage to what's happening in our church, centered on Mother's leadership, that when we embrace True Mother, then things start to change and our communities start to change and the world starts to change. So it's very hopeful and very exciting. So we're heading over to Subregion 1 to hear some reflections. And first, we're going to welcome one of our wonderful home office team members, Irmgard Baines, to share her reflections with us. Go ahead, Irmgard.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts, President Kaylee. Always very deep. And I know you added something, so I prepared myself from the beginning when True Mother started. I was sure such worries. But I thought it was so good that we re-emphasized about the prophecy of the marriage of the Lamb in the Bible, and also True Mother's conviction, right, when she wrote her thoughts. And before I start my reflection, I really would like to say, following the reading so far, really a deep gratitude rose in my heart for True Mother sharing her memoirs with us. It feels like kind of a gift, sharing her heart and her reflections on her path to becoming the mother of all humankind and starting a new history. And she, the true mother and the begotten daughter is like the missing link to really finalize and God's restoration, providence of restoration. And through the reading so far, it became very clear that True Mother's lineage and she herself were chosen by God, right? And she knew that she was ready to fulfill this role, as it was God's, her father's wish from her. And so when she starts, I mean, we added now the paragraph about what was going on in Korea. So this whole reading made me very curious. So I actually did some research. Why did she say there was this whispering in Korea and they were worried about their nation? What was happening? So for context, in 1960 in Korea, in South Korea, it was a great year of mass protests and against Sang Moon-rhee, True Mother said authoritarian liberal party, and he had to resign. So, and then she says the holy wedding is a turning point. So I was so amazed again how about True Mother's conviction, what the holy wedding really meant for human history. That we have a new start, we're starting a new world. And then she references, like Kaylee said already, the changes happening in the world and the hope of people in many countries for a new era. And I also was thinking, what actually happened in 1960? I was only 5 years old. So, and then she, like True Mother often does, in a very simple way, she points out the truth. She said, God's providence of restoration is never simple, because we know that the other power is not going to just sit quietly. And so she points out that in Eastern Europe, there were actually lots of rebellions and demonstrations in the 50s and in the 60s and the 70s, and the Soviet bloc, especially the Soviet tanks, they just came with tanks in those countries and crushed all those uproars. And then True Mother's talk about there were also lots of changes in our movement, and it made me curious. It triggered my questions in me. Why was there so much opposition from Christianity? True Mother seemed to have opened the hearts of the clergy in the recent years. It seems to me that way. And so then I was thinking, what if we would have realized her position earlier? Or if it would be even have been declared or taught. It wasn't really taught in our divine principle. What would it have been different? And then the last sentence about embracing a young woman leader, and members praying that we would be a beacon for new hope, for salvation, and that particular women have been oppressed for so long. A true woman's movement was being set in motion. So I thought, really? I didn't really see that. But then I also did a little bit of research. In the 60s, I read on Wikipedia that in 1963 is often considered as the beginning of the women's movement. And JF Kennedy, our president JF Kennedy, established the President's Commission on the Status of Women, chaired by Eleanor Roosevelt. And I thought, interesting. But our Women's Federation, the true woman movement, right, only was founded in 1992. And I thought, why did it take 30 years? I don't have an answer for that. Except the only one, which I said before, if we would have realized the true position of our true mother earlier, and really, as I said before, taught that way. And I think it is a more of a reason for us now to really grasp True Mother's position, understand her heart, and why she revealed it all now. And she chose to wait. So, but now it's our time to study and to pray. And this time of the 21 days is such a good opportunity to dig deeper. That's what we're doing. And yesterday I was very touched by Mrs. Seda's reflection to hold on to True Mother, to give us courage and strength in seeing her as our role model. And also, I'm going to call Sarah now Miss Herano, because I called her the young lady Mrs. Iseda. I could reunite with her prayer for God's guidance to impact our every word and actions, that's so important. And True Mother encouraged us to be bold, right? And I'm on the way to do that. I'm not there totally, but I'm very grateful that we have this time together. Those are my thoughts to this reading today. Thank you.
Wow, Irmgard, that was awesome and so fascinating, this historical context that you brought in, that it's very clear. It's one of those things that will be written about more clearly, right? Irmgard just wrote her book of apostles for us just now, the historical context of what was happening around True Parents' life, and especially around the Holy Blessing. Those were pieces I didn't put together about the start of the feminist movement. And wow, very fascinating, Irmgard. Thank you very much. Very interesting. Now for some more interesting and deep thoughts, let's hear from Myung Eaton to share her reflections with us.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to start off by saying, first of all, Kaylee and Irmgard, thank you, because I was reading this passage and certain things stuck out to me, but I don't think I appreciated it on the level that you both did. And so I just benefited a lot from hearing what you both were just saying. So I'll try to share a little bit of what I was like chewing on, but yeah, I think in the end, I think the things that struck me the most were these lines about the people who are living in troubled times, looking for someone to set the world right. And then the next kind of touchstone was people continued to pray for a true leader, right, when the conflict and the frustration continued. And then the final line is that, or final lines, of course, the comments your mother made about kind of the paradigm shift of what comes from embracing a young woman leader and True Mother, how that really elevated and changed the movement. Yeah, and then this kind of point about that we could be a beacon shining forth new hope of salvation. Sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional, but I think I just feel so much from this passage, right? The longing of people for a better world, free of conflict. And it actually didn't strike me so much until this moment, but just True Mother is deeply aware of all the people in the world who are suffering, and how in her decision to step forward with True Fathers, the True Parents, right? That fundamentally this is what they're trying to address, to resolve this long-standing and seemingly kind of unending suffering of people. I resonate with that so deeply. I often feel like I don't know, like, how can I do that? How can I contribute? What can I do to make a difference myself? But it's really lovely. Even just on the next page, there's a line, True Mother's talking about the church is always crowded with members. And in such a public setting, Father Moon and I would sit across from each other and talk about our plans for the world, right? So they were starting, of course, in the most humble of situations, and yet their vision was always on bettering the situation of every single person in the world. And I think that heart and that mindset can sometimes feel very foreign, but it's obvious to me. I'm someone who's trying to learn more about who True Mother is and what she's doing and what she is asking of us to do now. But it's obvious that her mind, even from these early moments, even from the earliest moments, were on the world and were on God. Because the salvation of the world is like the dearest thing to God's heart, right? The ending of the suffering of people is the dearest thing for God's heart. And so, yeah, I'm actually, just to be perfectly frank, surprising myself a little bit. I was struggling with this passage. So it's like, what is it that I'm supposed to like learn from this? But just thank you, Kayla. It's a really wonderful exercise to actually like engage the book, to really like look at what's there and why it's there. And I didn't do the work that I knew that I needed to do, that Irmgard did, of like, what is the history that's being, she's like so briefly, but there's like seeds, actually, there's stepping stones, or there's a starting, like, take this and like, learn, right? Take this and understand. And I think the final thing I'll just say is that I had a similar feeling about her comment about the true women's movement at the end. I was expecting in the next paragraph she's going to start telling me what a true women's movement looks like, and I kind of didn't feel that right away. I was like, where is the outline of the true women's movement? But then I started to notice, actually, there's a lot of really beautiful content right there about, I think, True Mother's own understanding and embodiment of what that movement is, probably as the first member of that movement. They start by planting trees at the border between North and South Korea, right? We all know that that's been a long time goal of True Parents, the reconciliation of North and South, but just what a beautiful thing that they did. They went and they planted trees, and she has this beautiful analogy that I'm not going to talk about. I recommend everybody read that. And then she talks about cooking food for True Father, and she talks about raising their children in their home. And it's just such simple but beautiful wisdom that she has there as a mother and as a woman. And it's interesting. This is the final thing I guess I'll say. I was on a call with other Subregion 1, I guess, young women who are interested in supporting Women's Fed moving forward. And that was just such a clear point that so many of them were making, and that I feel too. What does it mean to be a true woman, right? There's massive confusion in the world today about what that means. And America, unfortunately, is doing a lot to, contribute to that confusion. And so that's really like deeply frustrating to see. But then also, I guess the opposite side of that is the hope of like the clearer that we can become about what that is, centered on True Mother as the first woman of this true women's movement, right? The clearer we can become, the clearer we can be in our interactions with everybody in our lives, and the clearer. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know if it's just Americans on the call, but I feel that we do have this opportunity and maybe this responsibility that if we can stand forth with clarity and conviction, that we can do a lot to support True Mother in this time as she is trying to model what that is, and then we can follow her model and do the same. So, yeah, thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Irmgard and Myung. Yeah. Incredible points there. And I mean, this point too, Myung, about like how important it is to interact with Mother's words is a totally different experience. When you have to speak about it, when you have to share about it, it's interesting that it comes to you, right, in that moment. It's very different than just reading it. And then this powerful point about, the true women's movement and our job to kind of harness that strength from Mother too. Anyway, so powerful. Yeah, I feel like getting up and shouting, but my kids are sleeping right behind me, so I can't do that. Thank you both. That was really wonderful. So we're going to switch over to our prayer time now. So Myung, I'm going to ask you to offer your representative prayer first, and then Irmgard, when she's finished, you can begin your prayer, and then we'll do our unison prayer. So Myung, whenever you're ready, please go ahead and offer your prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Dearest Heavenly Parent, true parents, Jesus, good evening. We are coming together now on the 6th day of this 21-day condition within the broader 40-day condition leading up to the anniversary of True Father Seonghwa. We are so grateful both for these 21 days, these 40 days, this time period, True Mother's wherewithal to bring us together, to reflect and really go deeper and to awaken our hearts and spirits centered on the true parents, centered on you, centered on the Chunshim One. We know that there's so much that you want to accomplish in this world, that you have already done through true parents and that you long to do through us. And so I just pray, Heavenly Parent, that every day we can continue to grow closer to becoming the people who can fully embody you, your love, your heart in this world in the way that the true parents have modeled to us. We know that the world is looking for this love, this heart, your love and your heart.
Yes.
Yeah, I just pray so much, Heavenly Parent, that we can grow day by day to be those people that you need us to be in this time, and every day moving forward from here. So thank you, Heavenly Parent, for being with us. I hope this condition can be of value and hope and reassurance for you. And I pray these things in our names and in my name, Myung Journey and daughter of the David and Mary Eden, both Central family. Aren't you?
True. Amen. Yes, dear Heavenly Parent, we greet you and we greet our true parents, and we know that they are the parents of heaven and earth, and that we are at a turning point for a new world. Dear Heavenly Parent, I'm so grateful for our true mother that she took this on her as a life course to become to be the true mother, to be a trailblazer of true womanhood. And, we often thought our true father founded Women's Federation. He initiated it. Who knows? From reading this paragraph, you set this true women's movement in motion. And now we can study and inherit your heart, our true mother's heart, and learning together, supporting each other to become true women and to be a beacon of hope, as True Mother says, giving new hope and a new light to the world, also to show what a true woman could be, how an embracing and motherly touch, and just a feminine touch, could make such a difference. Our true mother shows us that by really empathizing with people, knowing the facts, but then looking with hope and forgiveness and unity into the future and cover things with love. And not by, what is right and righteous. That's not the only solution. Unity and love is so much deeper and brings us more forward. The word always talks about the progressives, but this unity and covering things with love is really the progressive way of solving situations and bringing happiness. And I think each one of us can be a big contributor if we just have enough faith and convictions and can learn from our true mother, who's standing so firm on this foundation of her faith and her trust and your love for her. And I know that you have love for each one of us. And we want to make that more, how shall I say, firm in our heart, that we can feel that much firmer. And then we can also be really the shining beacon of lights in our families and also beyond our families. Thank you for this opportunity, for the initiative from our President Kayleigh to come together again. And I join Myung in her hope that this will comfort you and our true parents, and that we can move forward and bringing more results in reaching so many more people. Thank you, Heavenly Parent, for this prayer in my name. Irmgard Baines, the Baines Blessed Central Family, Achu.
Thank you. We'll do our 4-minute unison prayer now, so please feel free to unmute and offer your prayer at this time.
Heavenly Parents, we come before you together. Father, we come as one family. Father, we have
so much, Father, for Spider Movement to more deeply connect True Mother's Heart, Father, and ourselves too. Therefore, I pray, Father, and ask, Father, for our personal participation in outreach and devotion in this urgent time period. Father, please, I activate us, Father, for a really difficult time, Father, all hopeful, Father, and Father, especially, Father, the situation, man, I'm just working by myself day after day, Father, and it's really to kind of feel, I'd say, without that give and take, it's to raise up and accountability to each other. It's really hard to kind of get the energy going, Father. Oh, Father, I
desire
for our
for your heart to
Father,
no matter what, we be vessels.
Father, so I pray, Father, for my activation and outreach and devotion within this period. Outreach and devotion. Outreach and in this, please get us going. Father, help me, Father, to be bold, strong, bold, and courageous, not be discouraged, not be, can't even be dismayed. The Lord our God is with us, especially with these statutes of Chamberlain. For WFW to really take it on, Father, and to fulfill the role and responsibility in the USA. This is the USA, Father. We can have pride, Father, in the women, Father, that are connected with as fed. So I pray, Father, that Father, we don't give up, Father, because women, Father, we need to make a better world, Father. Father, both hoped that women could make a better world than men could. And we cannot be things of woman. Frailty, thy name is woman. Father, so please help us to be courageous and strong and be smart, Father, and bring us together, sisters, bring our hearts together. Really pray, Father, 21 days, Father, and I pray and ask for your power, Father, and the power of the Holy Spirit, Father, go forth, Father, from the women's bed, Father, here, especially in Northern Nevada. Please, we pray and ask pouring of the Spirit here, for the outreach of each of our cities where we are working. Father, please pray, Father, for especially, Father, to express themselves.
It's over our heart. Thank you for the give us the courage together.
Please, you know the situation, Father, here. We know. Father, so I
Let's do
Father, please, as Father said that now is the time, Father. Do not get discouraged. Blood. They're not to like lose hope. Father, Father, in the midst of challenge, difficulty, and chaotic conditions, Father, here with so many. So, Father, again,
Aju. Thank you so much, everybody. I really feel like such pearls of wisdom are coming from this call, and thank you for your really sincere prayers. I did want to let everybody know that I just found out today that rebirth workshops are happening locally soon, and actually this weekend Los Angeles is hosting the first one. That announcement went out yesterday, and even I didn't know about it. So I know that now Kimi has organized one for New York, September 8th through 10th, and I heard Bay Area also in September. So please, I want to just encourage you to be on the lookout for those. And the whole point of some of this education and content is meant to support our journey to being able to attend local rebirth workshops. So if one comes, please make the time and please participate fully and make the extra trip wherever it is, because 100% it's worth it. 100% it's worth it. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.